Entertainment. And here we are. We are live. My name is Terry Wade Thompson, along with my co-host Bonnie. And tonight we are going to talk about how to keep calm. And about 15 minutes ago, we just totally forgot to actually hit the button here. So let me hit the mute button and everything while we have double the audio going on here. So now we no longer have double the audio. So tonight we're having lots of technical difficulties. We are having some family things. We are having this, that, and the other. So like literally right before we got ready to go live, like I was getting hollered at from upstairs. It was like, we're leaving. We're going to the store. We'll see back. I'm like, oh God, I'm about ready to go live. So I'm over here. I'm trying to like hurry up on Clubhouse, hurry up over here. Wait, Texas, do that, this, that. It's one of those moments that you could literally just pull all your hair out. And guess what? I don't have any hair. And Bonnie's hair's messed up tonight. So it's going to get fun. Let's get
it. Yes, it is. That last minute change and carrying busted up kids through the yard. He grabs onto my, so it is what it is. But we're here. That's the important thing, right?
Absolutely.
We showed up anyway.
That's it. Show up so you can show out. You know, we always talk about over on Clubhouse. So if you've ever listened to us on Clubhouse over in the Unbreakable Stories, you will always see that we always say, show up so you can show out. Speak up so you can speak. It's one of those things that it's not just a mantra. It's the truth. You know, when you show up, you can show out. And oftentimes, you know, as entrepreneurs, as coaches, teachers, trainers, leaders, if you will. Oh my goodness, it can get quite overwhelming. It truly can. I know, you know, Bonnie, you're an anxiety coach, and it's one of those things to where oftentimes as you're listening, as you're learning, you're observing, you're discovering, you're writing things down, you're trying to figure out how can I coach this person, you know, to get past those roadblocks, those struggles, that anxiety, those things within, you know, their life that's bothering. How do you stop that from overwhelming you? How do you stay calm as a coach?
That's a great question. And first thing I'm going to say is know that it's about them and it's not about you. I mean, as a coach, I think that that's a great general role. Coaching is not about you, the coach. It's about the person that you're helping, always. And while you're with that client, right, it's about them. But there's things you can do ahead of time. And I learned this, honestly, by going through it. You know, when the Unbreakable campaign rolled out its first go around, I had a lot of people coming to me with their trauma stories and like really heavy stuff. And I was not yet equipped. I'm still not equipped to help a lot of them with what they needed help with. Like they needed to be with a professional, like therapist, you know, psychologist, etc. But what was happening was I was absorbing their trauma and almost reliving some of mine, and also feeling very guilty because I felt like I couldn't help them, not realizing that just by referring them to somebody that was helping, I kind of just wasn't, it was the beginning. I was learning. And so really for me, it's about, we talked a little about this the other day, is I've learned how to get out ahead of it. And that's something that Abraham Hicks talks about kind of in another way, but it really does apply here, which is making sure that you're centered and have done whatever works for you to get you in a calmer, serene state of mind before you go into these sessions. And then if you're going from session to session, and make sure that you're able to have a way to recenter yourself in between. It's really about boundaries. Mm-hmm. You've got to set those emotional boundaries for yourself and with your clients. And that's the basics of it. So yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Oh, it truly was helpful. And I remember, you know, years ago when I was in the military, I always provided counseling. So in the military, it's called developmental counseling. And early on in my earlier military days, it was called professional counseling. And then it ultimately transitioned into developmental counseling. And as I was sitting down in these developmental counseling sessions, trying to coach, teach, train, mentor, counsel service members on how to progress within their career, how, what they're doing good, what they're doing bad, what they need improvement on, upcoming events, all these different things that really went into a developmental counseling. There was always a part within the session to where I always opened up the door for two-way communication. It was like, what are your, what's going on in your life? What problems are you facing? How's family life? How's your wife and kids? How's this? How's that? What are you struggling with? And quite often as a leader, I found myself helpless sometimes because I'm sitting here saying, man, I can't help this person because they're not willing to help themselves. And it was one of those things to where it really took a toll on me because as a leader, it's expected of me to lead. It's expected of me to make mission happen. It's expected of me to, whatever's going on with the soldier is going on with me. And I have to assume that responsibility, whether I want to or not. So it's one of those things to where as I was, counseling my soldiers, as I was talking to them, figuring out what it was that was going on within their life, that was stressful. I'm sitting here like, man, I can't help this guy. I don't even know how you got into doing this. And it took a toll. I literally felt like I had nowhere to turn. I didn't want to take it out on my wife. She didn't need that.
Right.
So I ultimately went to behavioral health. I eventually got to a point I was like, I need to go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I think in the military, that was a great conversation I just got into with someone yesterday about that, about desensitizing the toughness or the exterior that soldiers often put on and letting them know it's okay not to be okay. If you're under pressure, if you're stressed as a leader, where can you go as a leader? Well, in the military, we have behavior health, but is it still stigmatized? I still think that it is. And in the civilian world, there are lots of programs out there. So what are your thoughts on that right there? Like as a leader, having to do those things, having to deal with that, like certain people can just walk away. I don't want you as a client, go and have a nice life. There's people that do that and can do that. As a leader,
Yeah.
I had to
I mean, that's a tough situation. I think for me, and that sounds like you made a really good choice, was to go to mental health. Most therapists have therapists. You know what I mean? Like most psychiatrists see somebody as well. And it's really hard because most of the people that get into these fields who are really in it to help people. I mean, there's plenty of people out there playing coach that just want to make money, unfortunately. But the people who get into these fields to genuinely help, they most of them they're very empathetic. They're very compassionate people. They're driven by this want for people to feel better and to feel good and to solve problems. And there's all these things, I don't want to call them burdens, but that's kind of how they feel sometimes. If you can think of a better word, that would be great. But like they take all of this on voluntarily in order to relieve the other person who is in more pain than they are. And unfortunately, if you're not setting boundaries or setting up ways to decompress or setting up ways to recenter, setting up, your own routines in the morning that are helping you so that you're not walking into these sessions already like riled up, you're going to have a really hard time continuing to be in that position. And that's why I took a break.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's why Unbreakable Campaign was gone. It was on hold for so long because I didn't have the help. I didn't have anybody to do it with. And I needed more time to finish healing myself and learn that it was okay to say no, learn how to set boundaries, learn how to take better care of myself, learn how to put those practices. So I wasn't going in there already kind of semi-raw, if you will, and then trying to help somebody else from a place where I wasn't filling my own cup.
That's a great point. Here's what I want to point out within what you said that was so great right there. You have to find a way to recenter yourself. And here's why that's important for me. I'll give you an example of how I had an overwhelming day within the military. I was in a situation where I was I just was in a new position, so I just got there to the company. I just walked in front of my team, and it was about 130 people. So I was in charge of 130 people. And the first thing that I did on day number one is I had what's called an open door session. And I was like, here's an open door session. I'm going to literally file you guys into a room. And from the time that we got to work till the time that we went home later on that evening, it was one-on-one time. It was me and one other person, one-on-one in a room. And I had a sheet of paper. I had printed off about 150 sheets of paper that I had specific information on questions that I was asking. So from the start of the day to the end of the day, I had 130 people that I was just going through what's going on. Open door. You can tell me anything you want. What's going on in your life? What are you struggling with? This, that, and the other. And at the end of the day, I literally felt like I had just gotten my face caved in because I was taking on all of that stuff. And it got to a point to where I know that I couldn't help everybody. I know that, unfortunately, during the 2 years that I did that particular job, I ended up chaptering out. So chaptering out is basically where you kick someone out of the military. During the course of that 2 years, I ended up chaptering out 56 soldiers. I ended up putting 7 in Fort Leavenworth, which is a military prison. And then 2 guys ended up committing, what I want to say. And I couldn't save everybody. I couldn't help everybody. And it was one of those things to where even to this day, all of that still weighs heavy on my mind. And it's one of those things to where I have to put in those mechanisms in place in order to prevent that. And there are some people, and you and I had a great conversation about misery loves company and the, commiserating in this, staying within that. And you have to get out of that. You have to find that way to recenter, to get out of that thing, even when things start to stack up, like the example that I just gave. It was 130 people that I had to go through. It was stacking, it was building, it was mounting. It was like, oh my God, by the end of the day, I was like, I don't want to talk to another person. And I got to go home to my wife and kids. And I'm sitting here like, I just took on all of that burden, if you will, on my shoulders because I'm the leader. And now I got to go home. So it was one of those things to where you're absolutely correct. You have to have those recentering mechanisms in place in order to keep yourself centered. Otherwise, you will assume the identity. You will assume the conversation. You will assume the thing because you hear it. You hear it over and over and over again. It's one of those things to where as you hear things, you believe things. And as you believe things, you take on those roles and those things within your life. So here's what I want to dive into. I want to dive into some tactical techniques to recenter yourself. How do you recenter yourself when you're overwhelmed and under pressure?
Yeah, I just want to point out to give a different explanation of what you're talking about. That's an energy exchange. And so when people come in there and they're full of just negative, and they're literally offloading, like you can physically feel the weight of that, which is why they call it the weight on your shoulders. You can physically feel people's negative energy. And that's why when you vent sometimes, like you just need to get something off your chest, you physically feel lighter. And that's most useful when you vent. I mean, you and I vented to each other and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing, like I need to get this out, but then I'm going to go fix, find a solution or work on the solution. And that's when that's most effective. It's just important for people to understand that it is an exchange of energy, because that's going to help you to find the tactics and techniques and the tools that really work for you, because you're going to have to really pay attention to your body and your thought process when you're using some of these to know whether or not they're actually effective. Everybody's different. Everybody handles these things differently. Some people are equipped to kind of deflect more than they absorb. And that's really kind of not deflect kind of back at the person, but just in the sense that you're not absorbing it yourself, or it's kind of stopping before, like you can hear, you can help, you can assist, but you don't have to take it on. And so there's really super simple way to kind of set a boundary without specifically um, saying like I'm setting a boundary or you're not allowed to say this is literally just visualizing like a bubble around yourself. And so that nothing energetically is allowed in that bubble. If you've ever heard, and this is kind of like a joke, but not just like I'm in my awesome bubble, you're not allowed in kind of thing. I don't know if you've ever heard anybody say that, but that's kind of what it's like. It's just like, hey, I can hear you, I can see you, I can acknowledge you, I can assist you if you'd like, but that's not allowed in here because if it comes in here, I'm not going to be able to help you to the best of my ability. And I'm also not going to be able to help anybody else that comes behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just helpful to kind of visualize whether it's a barrier or a bubble or something between you and the person, so that energetically, you're not absorbing what they've got going on. As far as recentering, a lot of people like meditation. Music is a good way. I know you and I have shared a lot of different suggestions about music over the past several months. And people who aren't necessarily not necessarily interested in the kind of esoteric and visualization and meditation, simply physical exercise is a good way to decompress after you've, kind of dealt with the situation or been in a situation like that. Because sometimes this stuff you can't preemptively, like it's not a session, you know what I mean? Sometimes stuff comes kind of out of nowhere. And that's why I say getting out ahead of it and getting yourself centered first thing in the day helps you handle those things as they come on. But if they kind of blindside you and you're not ready for them, you need to make sure you find a way to decompress and
I like that word decompress. I really do like that word decompress. And, we all decompress in different ways. I know for me, it was go to the gym. It was work out. It was go for a run, go work out. And it was that ability for me to decompress that when I got done with that, I felt refreshed. I felt energized. I felt strengthened. I felt like everything just poof, it just went away, kind of a thing. I remember during one of my deployments, because we always had the ability to work out during deployments. We always had gyms. We always had, place that we could go. We always had what it's called MWR, morale, welfare, recreation. And it's one of those things, we always had those things no matter where we was at. Even in Iraq, we was able to go to a building that was like a makeshift building where we could watch movies and hang out. We always had our gyms. So I would always go to the gym, and it was oftentimes like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. I would put in a whole day's worth of stuff, and then I would go to the gym and work out for 2 hours. And, and I'd get back to my place at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. But it was necessary. It was one of those things that allowed me to really decompress. And I think that a lot of people, they need those ways that they can decompress, whether it's listen to something like you said, music. I love listening to music. If I want to change my mood, I'll listen to music. But a lot of people get it wrong. They'll listen to slow music because I want to relax. They listen to ambient music because they want to just chill out or whatever the case may be. But look, I'm here to tell you, if you want to change your mood, music really does mean a lot. And it's one of those things where if you want to get energized, you listen to that fast music. If you want to listen to whatever, and it gets me motivated. It gets me pumped up, so to speak, or it relaxes me. It calms me down. I have aromatherapy. So right here on the other side of my computer, I have 2 machines. I have one for wax and I got one for the oil. And I'll get them both going at the same time. The whole house permeates. It's great. And I got my ambient light back over here in the corner. And those are those things that really kind of help me stay calm under pressure. I got a yoga ball out here on the other side. Sometimes I'll go over here on the yoga ball and I'll just kind of bounce on it, sit around, stretch, do all these different things. I have a trampoline. I'll jump up and down on that in the gym. So once again, having those things in place in order to decompress, it's important, because if you sit there and you think about the thing, it'll just eat at you. It'll just tear at you. It'll just continue to bother you. So it's one of those things that if you're ever under pressure, thinking about it's not going to make it go away.
Well, yeah, if you think about the word decompress, I mean, to compress something is to, kind of, you think of like, first thing I think of is like our recycling. So like every time somebody puts something in the recycling, they stick the milk jug in there and nobody squishes the stuff and it frustrates the heck out of me. So I'm always like compressing and smashing these things. So if you think about taking on people's energy, you're just packing more and more and more
Mm.
and more and more energy into the same space.
Mm.
Eventually, that's got to come back out. It's got to decompress, and it's either going to decompress very quickly in an outburst or rage or some other,
Mhm.
not so productive way, or
Yep.
you can decompress slowly and let this out, the energy or negativity back out slowly by, like you said, you doing things to change your mood. Exercise is great because it helps your body create, endorphins and oxytocin and all of these other good feeling brain chemicals. Um, and it's like shaking a soda bottle too, right? Like all of that compressed air and liquid, you shake that up enough, agitate it, if you will, and then open the cap, you got soda everywhere. But if you kind of let it sit and like chill, wait like a half an hour or so, you can open the cap with no problems.
Yeah.
Probably not going to spray in your face. So yeah.
I love it. That's actually one of my triggers. So I had a great conversation with Miss Ellen. I believe she's still watching. I seen her in the chat here. And so I had a chat with Ellen and Melvina last night. I was on their Instagram, and that was one of the things that we kind of talked about was triggers. What actually triggers you whenever you're in a particular conversation? And sometimes it's hard to stay calm. And some of those triggers can
Mm.
really put you under pressure and make you feel like you're under pressure. So for me, I have three triggers that just completely set me. Now I have more than three, but I have three in particular that are just predominant triggers for me. And it's one of those things that no matter where I am at, what I'm doing, if those things happen, I'm not calm. I'm stressed out. I just want to, my mind just goes all over the place and I just want to eliminate the situation.
Right.
And it's one of those things. One is the sound of a whistle. I cannot stand the sound of a whistle. The other one is a crying baby. And the last one is what you just said, which is the sound of crushing plastic bottles like this one right here before you put it inside the trash can. The sound of that thing right there, just I heard that, right? For
Mm.
15 freaking months in Iraq. And when you hear that about 1,000 times a
Oh
day,
yeah.
all day, every day, and in the trash, because we're in Iraq, we got to drink water. But these guys all day long will sit there and you will hear 1,000 plus, bottles just being crushed and put into the recycling thing. That's a trigger for me. So when I
Yeah.
hear those things, I like my brain just goes into just immediate chaos.
Yeah, it's
And
a
it's one
trauma response.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, what would be your recommendation for those particular triggers right there? Because I have my plan of action on how I deal with those things. So, how would you stay calm under those things that are just seemingly overwhelming triggers?
Um, that's a great question. So I'm not a trained or licensed therapist.
Got it.
I've heard the I think it's EMDR therapy works really well for that.
Hmm.
And there are some, graded exposure therapies that can help with that. Um, it For me, see, now I wasn't in a war. I wasn't in the military. I've had other traumatic
Hmm.
things happen that I'm not going to get into because it's not necessary
Understood.
to make the point.
Hmm.
Um, and so there were certain things that I just had to, for myself, uh, consistently reassure myself that I was okay, it was basically affirmations. I'm okay. I'm loved. I'm safe. I'm in keeping them positive, not saying like I'm not in harm's way, but like just I'm
Hmm.
safe, I'm loved. And sometimes I would have to completely remove myself and just continue over and over and over and over again. I also use a lot of distraction techniques when I was first figuring this stuff out on my own. Because I didn't have anybody really guiding me or giving me tips. I mean, even being in therapy for 15 years, I was in talk therapy. So I didn't learn what cognitive behavior therapy was until, or that actually that was a thing for adults too, until I quit seeing my therapist, because my son, I was using it with him, and it never, for whatever reason, didn't dawn on me that this wasn't just a kid's thing. So I took kind of some of the stuff that I learned helping, not helping raise him, but that helped me to raise him. So for what worked for me, I don't know if it would work for you. My PTSD stems from something completely than what yours did. And I was so fed up with doctors and therapists and medication that I took it upon myself to figure out a way, like, just to work through it and to just, like, it's really hard for me to explain, because it's kind of like I just did the thing. I was like, okay, I'm not going to allow this to run my life anymore. I'm not going to allow this to run my life anymore. I'm a very stubborn human being when it comes to a lot of different things. And that's one of the things I got really stubborn on, was just practicing controlling my reaction and then turning it into a response and then a lesser response. I'm not going to pretend that there's not stuff that still catches me off guard. There's certain words that send me off the deep end where I'm screaming at my kids in particular, like when they call each other names and stuff. And I'm like screaming, that's unacceptable, kind of like,
I think I've heard some of those on our phone calls.
I'm sure, because I would actually, not that I want them running around swearing, but I'd rather my kids say the F word than calling each other an idiot, because that's the stuff that sticks and causes damage later on. So I don't know, that was a really long.
I love it because, my kids, they genuinely love each other and they help each other out and this, that, and the other. So I've never really had that problem. I mean, every once in a while I have to tell my son to kind of like stop, with certain things, because he's a little older, so he's a little smarter. So, he doesn't understand that, people are at different levels yet. So he's getting it. He's slowly getting it. So it's one of those things to where when he's, prematurely judging his sister, it's one of those things that, like, dude, you need to calm down, understand that your sister's 3 years younger than you. She's not there yet. So, and I always have to get on to him about that. And usually it doesn't take long. It doesn't take much. I just say, hey, dude, you need to slow your roll, calm that down a little bit and understand that she's not there yet. Let's teach her real quick, but don't get onto her. Don't yell at her. Don't, don't shut her down, so to speak. And that's one of the things too, because as coaches, as leaders, we can really kind of shut down the people that we're trying to help. And we need to understand that listening is powerful. You listen so that you can learn. You learn so you can understand. You understand so that you can say the right thing at the right time in the right way so that it can be understood. Otherwise, you will really shut the other person down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's extremely, like, of utmost importance to understand what your strengths are as a coach, or trainer, teacher. But especially as a coach. And I think the thing to be aware of is that more often than not these days, unfortunately, somebody's got some type of trauma, some point in their past. And you need to be aware of not trying to be the hero, not trying to know it all, not trying to be the only solution, not like, there's all these different things, because your client's coming to you for help. And if you're doing things that are not really your expertise, you could be doing more damage than you're doing good. And so you have to be able to take the ego out of it and say, okay, I'm not qualified for this. You need to talk to this type of person or seek help here. I can help with this, but I'm not trained to help with that. And I think a lot of people, again, get into things, think, oh, well, I took coaches training for 6 weeks and this and that and the other. And it's like, that's great. You've got a certificate with a frame around it. But unless you've had some kind of experience with this type of stuff and can identify
Mhm.
Um, when more intensive help is necessary,
Mhm.
um, you're going to cause problems for your client and potentially for yourself.
I actually had that happen to me one time. So, in the military, we have this thing that's called a battle book, and it's an approved plan of action depending on the situation. And every company, every company is different. They got different plans of action, but there's a general set of guidelines that are approved. It's like this is the generally acceptable plan of action, no matter where you are, kind of a thing. So I had a particular situation that arose, and I acted. I
Mm,
took action, and it was one of those things that in the back of my mind, it was the right decision. Next thing you know, I'm getting called into the senior leader of the company's, office, and this guy's like yelling at me, cussing at me, screaming at me up and down, saying I'm the worst leader he's ever seen, and I should be fired, and I should be, reduced in rank, and all this and all that, all because I made a decision that I thought was the right decision. And it was one of those moments where, gosh, I was trying to stay calm under pressure because I'm like, dude, I'm sitting here doing what I was trained to do, man. And it's like, and it was unacceptable in his mind, in his eyes. And, and when I asked him, I was like, well, what would be considered acceptable? And that just triggered him even more. It was like, well, you don't know what to do. You're a senior
yeah,
leader and this, that, and it was just, it wasn't getting any better. It was getting worse and worse and worse. And the more that it got worse, the more I felt under pressure. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to save that guy's life
yeah,
because he was literally at the bottom of the barrel. And I had, sent him to the right person that I thought was the right person for him to go. And in the military, that's the chaplain. You go to the chaplain, and that, the chaplain is the one that can talk to you, counsel you, provide, because that's the guy that's certified. That's the guy
right.
that has the credentials. That's the guy that's his job. That's, as a military leader, it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm certified. I'm a leader. I'm a master resiliency trainer. I can give you skills on how to bounce back and do all this stuff. So I have certifications as well too, but I'm not the chaplain who's
Right.
really, that's his job. But it was one of those things to where this guy went and the senior leader went and grabbed that soldier and said, get out of the chaplain's office. You're coming with me. And he pulled him into the office, and it was me, the senior leader, and the guy that I had sent to the chaplain. And this senior leader literally looked at this guy and said, what the F is wrong with you? Speak. You know what I'm saying? And we was in a room behind closed doors, and we was listening to this guy, and I'm sitting here trying to stay calm because now I'm just looking weaker and weaker as a leader. Now I'm just looking incompetent. Now I'm just like, whatever the case may be. And I'm sitting here like, I don't want to yell at this guy. I didn't want to cuss at the guy. I wanted to get the guy help, but I had a
Right.
situation that I didn't want to deal with. So I ended up making a decision that was ultimately wrong. Well, long story short, here's what we ended up finding out. What we ended up finding out is that this guy had just reenlisted, got a bonus, and he reenlisted to change his MOS, which is his job. And he got cold feet, and he didn't want to go do this job. So his plan of action in his best mind and interest was to do what he did and say what he said and
Mm,
this, that, and the other. And it it ended up not being the right decision.
yeah.
Even longer story short, we ended up chaptering the guy out of the military. We got rid of him. We said, look, you obviously made a bad decision. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We're gonna send you home. Now I also have to look back on that and say, was that really the right decision? I don't know. Well, maybe to this day I'll never know.
Right.
But now here I am thinking like, man, I made a decision as a leader, wrong decision. Somebody else had a different opinion, a different perspective. I had to sit there and listen to that, deal with that, get called all kinds of different things and repositioned and moved around because I was obviously incompetent, kind of a thing. And it was one of those things that, over time, it worked itself out. It,
Yeah.
it, it truly did. It worked itself out. And I learned, it was a lesson learned. But the thing with that particular situation is, uh, if you think you're right, or you believe you know that you're right, do you stand by your guns, or do you take a different stance because someone else has a different opinion or perspective?
For me in that situation, I would have definitely erred on the side of caution as well. If I thought and I can say that with 100% certainty because I've dealt with people as close to me as you could possibly get, where I had to make a decision that was in the best interest of that person's survival, literally.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
And I've had people that complete strangers that I met on the internet that I had maybe had a couple of interactions with come to me again with their trauma stories and how they were feeling. And knowing that I had to be extremely cautious with my words in those situations. I actually had a gentleman at one point, and this is how I knew that what I was doing with Unbreakable was gonna come back around at some point. Like it wasn't over. Is when this guy came back to me. He's like, he's like, that day that you took the time to talk to me, you changed my mind. And I was like, whoa, like that was a really big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously a really big deal for him. But in that, I was honest with him. I was like, okay, I can take this. Okay, wait. I need you to call this number and talk to this person and do this thing.
Yeah.
And let me know that you've done that. Like, come back and check in with me, kind of thing. And he did.
That's
and
awesome.
It was very surreal. I never wanted to, like, I know I played a part in that, but had he not followed through and actually listened to what I said, like he did the work, like he went and got the help that he needed to get. But again, like I said, I tend to err on the side of caution in these situations.
Yeah, that's a great point. It really is.
I'd rather be wrong and be too cautious than be quote unquote right and push somebody over the edge. If that makes, because then you're still not right. Like,
yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Shifting gears though, as coaches, teachers, trainers, entrepreneurs, we often find ourselves on stages where we're speaking, like we are here now. We're here speaking. We're live on YouTube. We go live on Clubhouse each and every night. Some of us have spoken on stage. I've been a keynote speaker many times. I used to speak on stage. I used to teach in a classroom. I've been on, some pretty big stages, and it's one of those things to where when you're under pressure to perform or to speak or whatever, it's like the old adage, it's like, I'm nervous or I'm excited kind of a thing. How do you stay calm? Like when you're getting, like when that you're about ready to just go out there and it's like, man, this could be life changing and I have to deliver. It's like, man, all these things that can run through your head and this, that, and the other. And like, am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? Is this? How do you stay calm and be like, and then deliver?
I'm not going to pretend that I stay 100% calm. Like the first thing that came to mind when you said that was the 2-minute drill episode I was on. I was definitely running super high on adrenaline when I gave my 2 minutes, like super high, like to the point where when I was done, I could literally feel this physical, like draining. It was like, like almost like instant exhaustion. And it was funny as they came back because my internet kept cutting in and out. We had an ice storm. My power went out. Our Wi-Fi wasn't coming back on. And I logged in 5 minutes before I was supposed to go live. So I was already like just making shit happen, so to speak. Like, all right, we're just going to keep moving forward. But they came back after I was done. And I'm like, okay, this is over. I'm good. Like, I can breathe. And it was like, we need to record you again. And I was like, excuse me. It was like, and I had to try 3 more times, like off screen, that they were, off the live. They were gonna, cut it in. They ultimately just kept the what do you call it? The pixelated cutting in and out video.
Yeah.
But what I was doing to keep myself as calm as I possibly could was repeating my affirmations. I actually had Like I've effing got this. Universe has my back. You know, everything's always working out for me. And I kept it super simple and just kept, it was almost like what they call it, a talk track. Like it was literally just replaying over and over and over and over again in my head,
Mhm.
because I kept my focus off what I was about to do for the most part. But I definitely felt the adrenaline just like literally bubble up as soon as I heard David call my name, and I was like, like I just did the thing, and I was trying, and I stumbled over my words at one point. And it all worked out beautifully in the end. But um, I think it's. So I've heard this twice today actually. That if you're not nervous when you're about to step on a stage, now this stuff I'm pretty used to at this point, but getting on an actual stage and like knowing I'm about to deliver to, multiple people. I don't, for whatever reason, this still feels like one-on-one to me. I'm just
Mhm.
accustomed to being on screen like this. But I heard, I had this coffee chat this afternoon with a wonderful guy that I met in a networking group. And he said this, the second time I heard it was, if you're not nervous, you're either like not passionate about whatever it is you're talking about, or you're just really not that into helping people. So something to that effect. That's a paraphrasing.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought, like, I've heard even Evan Carmichael and Mel Robbins have all talked about how they still feel nervous before they step on stage. And these are people who have been doing this over and over and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
I have yet to step on a physical stage.
Mhm.
I know it's coming. It's something that I want to do. I
Yeah,
want to
like
get on
Tony
stage and
Robbins.
yell at people, "You're unbreakable." Like it's coming. It's coming.
Like
Um,
Tony Robbins, for example, he still does like priming exercises before he
yeah.
goes on stage. Brendan
Yeah.
Burchard does this. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. It's like Qigong or something like that. Qigong,
Oh
Qigong.
yeah. I actually just heard about that again today. That's so intriguing.
And it's one of those things to where when you get ready to go. So for me, when I've got a big event that's coming up, like I'm going to be honest with you, we go live with Evan Carmichael every month on Clubhouse.
Hmm.
That's an exciting event. And I'm the host for that event. So it's one of those things that as we're getting ready to go live, I'm over here rocking out to music. I'm jumping up and down. Yeah. I'm doing all these different things. I'm like getting myself hyped up. And when I get on there, it's like, whoa, get ready now. Bam. I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Right.
That's kind of one of those things. And it's a great, intro. Like I'm rocking it out, man. I'm ready to go. But
Yeah. And people
you
really
know,
love that too, by the way. I'm sure
was
you've
that?
heard maybe once or twice. I said people really love that
Yeah.
too. By the way, you may have heard like once or twice. No, I'm just
Uh-huh.
kidding. I know you've heard a lot.
I know that,
Bring that
it
energy.
is, and everybody has those little things on how you keep calm under pressure. But for me, it's getting excited under
I was gonna,
pressure.
yeah, I was
You
gonna
know what
say
I'm
Mel
saying?
Robbins
So,
talks about that
so
too.
that's the opposite spectrum of
Hmm.
that. It's like, okay, I'm under pressure. I'm about ready to perform. I don't want to be calm. I want to get freaking, through the roof, kind of a
Right.
thing. I want to get pumped up kind of a deal. And, and I've often found myself in situations to where I had to really get pumped up. I'll give you a great example. I played against Team USA in baseball 30
Hmm.
years ago before they got ready to go to the Olympics. Here I am walking out onto a baseball field with 15,000 freaking people. Holy crap, that's a lot of people, watching me, and I'm the pitcher, right? And I'm playing against Team USA. And it's one of those things that I was pumped, man. Like it was pressure. It was a lot of pressure, but it really wasn't because it was like, nobody expected us, an all-star team from, Illinois and Iowa to beat Team USA.
Right.
We get out there on that field and I'm so hyped. Like for about 5 innings, I was just through the freaking roof. By about the sixth inning, that's when I started kind of draining a little bit. But for five
Yeah.
innings, I had a no hitter through 5 innings. That means they wasn't hitting the ball, they wasn't touching it.
Right.
I was killing them. Here it is, me killing freaking Team USA for 5 innings. I had a no hitter through five. In the sixth inning, I got taken out. We ended up getting beat 3-1. And that's a memory for me. And it's one of those things to where I was nervous. I was under pressure, but I was hyped. I didn't want to be calm. I wanted to just rip the roof off the whole baseball field because I'm over here, man. There's 15,000 freaking people here, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was ready to rock and roll at that moment in time. And it's always a great story. And I do have a reminder of that game each and every single time because I got hit on the hip here and I got this knot about the size of an egg on the side of my hip that I've had removed once and it's growing back again. So that's my gentle reminder of playing Team USA.
That is a great story. I love you talk about basically shifting the anxiety or the stress or the nervousness into excitement. Our body physiologically doesn't know the difference. You think about for people who like roller coasters, not everybody likes roller coasters. You're getting on a roller coaster and you start to get excited, you get on there and the adrenaline starts pumping and everything else. You're feeling the same physical sensations as that person, aka me, standing behind you, trying to find the escape route, which I did once. I'll tell that story another day. Like sweating and like shaking and nervous stomach. It's just your brain has associated these different physiological feelings with what you're telling yourself, and then that's why you're feeling that way, like emotionally. And so it's just kind of the way that you're linking things together in your brain, and you can, with practice, convince yourself that you're not scared, that you are excited. So I am excited to at some point test that theory on a real stage. It's not happening right now. But for me, it really was in that moment. I had been repeating these same affirmations for like 2 weeks straight religiously. I'm walking up and down my sidewalk in the middle of winter, reciting my pitch, learning and memorizing my pitch, and reciting my affirmations like over and like for hours and hours and hours. I can't even tell you how many hours I actually did that. So yeah, there's different things that work differently for different people. Kind of twist on your phrase, because we all have had different experiences, right? And we all have being individual human beings can be literally standing side by side, witnessing or experiencing the same event and come away with a completely different interpretation of what that was about and how that felt, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why
I love it. So real quickly, I got this printout here that I want to show here in just a minute, but I want to make sure that we let everybody know and about how they can get better connected with us. But we have some friends in the audience here, that I want to shout out real quick. We have Ellen, we have EJ, and we have Janine as well too, who's been standing by. So here's what I want. If you want to join the after party, we're not live after that. So we're live now. But if you do not want to join the live show, but you want to hang out with us after the show, we usually hang out for about 10 or 15 minutes after the show and have a quick conversation. It's an opportunity for you to ask us questions and everything. I'm pinning that into the chat right now. So if you do want to join the after party, go ahead and click on that link right there. That way you can join the after party. So it says right there within the chat, join the after party. I'll keep you backstage. And once we do end the stream here, which we're about ready to do here very shortly, you can join the after party. You can discuss, a couple things with us, ask us questions and this and that and the other. But here's what I want to do. I want to bring to everybody's attention our printout. So Bonnie created this wonderful printout sheet in which you can, I clicked on the wrong thing here. I'm trying to get over here. I'm having a Zen moment on clicking something. He'll love that I'm having a Zen moment, but I totally clicked on something. I was like, where'd it go? It just my whole thing just disappeared for a second. So we've been having technical difficulties all night here, but I do have this printout right here, which is the I Am Unbreakable printout. Bonnie created this right here, and it says, I am unbreakable, hashtag my unbreakable story. So here's what we want you to do. All we want you to do is print out that We want you to print that out and then take a picture of yourself with it and share it across social media and let everybody know that you are unbreakable. That's you supporting Unbreakable Stories. And it's absolutely for free. So if you look at the bottom of the screen right there, you will see the link where it says unbreakablestories.com/share. That's how you can get to that printout right there. And I'll pin that here within the chat here very shortly. And that's all that we want you to do. We just want you to print that out, take a picture of it, and share it across social media and letting everybody know that you are unbreakable. Use the hashtag #MyUnbreakableStory. That way we see that and we can make sure that we share that across all of our social media. So here it is. I've just pinned it within the chat here to where now you can click on that link and head on over to our website. Print that out. You know, take a picture of yourself. Let your friends know that they can do the same thing. Take a picture and share your support. That's all that we're asking. It's super simple. It's free and it's advertising for you. So if you're an author, you're an entrepreneur, and you're wanting a very good way in which to get some free advertising on us, we always share that on our website and share that across social media. You know, and it's showing the world that you're unbreakable. And our way of giving back to you is to reshare that across all of our platforms. So super simple, super easy, super free, did I mention? And we would love your support on that right there. All right. So Bonnie, final thoughts before we get ready to go here. We had an amazing conversation, and I do see we have Janine in the back here. So we'll talk to her in the after party. And once again, I just want to bring it to everybody's attention. If you want to join the after party, once we do end the live stream here, tap on that link right there in the chat that says join the after party. You'll see the StreamYard link. You can join us, you can chat with us, and it's usually a lot of fun. All right. So Bonnie, final thoughts.
I do have one. I actually mentioned to the gentleman that I was speaking with earlier, the one I referenced. He also was talking with the Kijong, and I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly too. But he was talking to me about box breathing, and so that's one of the techniques. He actually he sent me an email, so I have that. There's a video here on YouTube. So if anybody's interested in learning that technique, it's just a breathing technique. So it's one of these things that you can do in the moment when you're super stressed, anxious, nervous. You don't need any special equipment. I've heard of box breathing before, but this is one is supposedly specifically for calming anxiety. And so I'm going to check it out. So if anybody else is interested, please, drop me a message on here, on Instagram, on wherever you can find me at Posh Notions or at the Unbreakable Stories links, and I'll get the message and I can shoot the link for that video over as well. It's like 5 minutes long, he said. So I'm excited to check that out and to, keep sharing the tips and tools and knowledge with everybody else as well.
I love it. Bonnie, great conversation tonight. As always, it's a pleasure to be able to sharpen our minds and make the world unbreakable, because a lot of people out there, they need these stories. They need, these tips, tools, techniques that you and I talk about each and every week at Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we do go live each and every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. We had a few breaks in there, but, things do tend to happen, but we're back on, and we do talk over on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, we do go live on Clubhouse each and every night. And we have our live show on Clubhouse every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So once again, head on over to our website, unbreakablestories.com. You'll see all of the ways in which you can get connected to us. And man, I'm telling you, you are unbreakable. The world needs your story. You have a short story to share that could literally save someone's life or change someone's life today. And the best way to do that is to head over to unbreakablestories.com, get the t-shirt, share your story, and share with the world that you are unbreakable. Because you know what? If people see your story, they hear your story, and they believe that it's possible for you, it's also possible for them as well too, when they can take action. And man, that's what we want to share with the world right there, that you are unbreakable. So along with my co-host here, Bonnie, my name is Terry Thompson. I just want to say thank you very much for listening. We got this after party we have to get to here. It's always a pleasure to talk to everyone, to listen to everyone. Bonnie, great show tonight. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good night, everyone.